The rain poured relentlessly, drumming against the windshield as Lila gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles pale. The road ahead was a void, swallowed by darkness, with only the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the desolation. She had been driving for hours, lost in a maze of unmarked roads, her phone dead and the map useless. When the engine sputtered and died, silence enveloped her like a shroud. She sat there, alone and vulnerable, staring out at the oppressive night. Then she saw it, a faint flickering light in the distance. Hope ignited, fragile but undeniable. As she stepped out into the cold, the wind whispered her name, carrying with it the faint scent of decay. Drawn by the light, she walked into the unknown. What she didn't know was that Black Hollow was not on any map, nor was it a place meant to be found. Black Hollow didn't just take visitors, it kept them. It was a stormy night when Lila found herself stranded on an isolated road. Her car had broken down miles from civilization. Desperate for shelter, she spotted a faint light flickering in the distance. As she trudged toward it, the wind howled through the skeletal trees. The source of the light revealed itself, an old decrepit sign that read, "Welcome to Black Hollow." The town appeared abandoned. Cobblestone streets were cracked and overgrown with moss, and the faint glow of gas lamps revealed crumbling buildings. Strangely, Lila felt like she was being watched. The wind carried whispers, too faint to understand, but chilling enough to quicken her pace. She noticed movement in the windows, shadows shifting, though no one seemed to be there. Seeking refuge, Lila entered what appeared to be an old hotel. The grand chandelier in the lobby swayed slightly, though there was no wind. The reception desk was unmanned, but a dusty guestbook lay open. Against her better judgment, she wrote her name. As soon as she did, a key dropped from the ceiling with a metallic clang. Room 13. The elevator creaked as she ascended. When she reached her floor, the hallway stretched unnaturally long, dimly lit by a single flickering bulb. Room 13's door was slightly ajar, as though it had been waiting for her. The room was eerily pristine, in stark contrast to the decayed exterior. A mirror hung above a fireplace, and Lila caught glimpses of movement within its reflection. Shadows seemed to move independently, whispering incoherent phrases. As she approached the mirror, her reflection was gone, replaced by a dark void. Suddenly, the whispers became screams. The door slammed shut, and the walls began to bleed black ichor. She tried to flee, but the mirror began to glow, pulling her closer like a gravitational force. Lila woke to find herself in a labyrinth beneath the hotel, its walls made of flesh-like material that pulsed rhythmically. Dim lanterns cast distorted shadows, and distant guttural growls echoed through the corridors. She wasn't alone. Shadowy figures with elongated limbs moved within the walls, their eyeless faces pressed against the translucent surface, watching her. As she stumbled through the maze, she found etchings on the walls. Names, dozens of them, each followed by a date. The last name was hers. Lila discovered a room at the heart of the labyrinth. In its center was an altar surrounded by black candles, their flames unnaturally still. A journal lay open, written by the town's last inhabitant. It spoke of a deal made with a shadowy entity to preserve the town forever, at the cost of new souls. Realizing her fate, Lila turned to run, but was confronted by the shadows. They closed in, their whispers deafening. The journal burst into flames, and the room was consumed by darkness. The next morning, Black Hollow stood as if nothing had happened. The town remained abandoned, and Lila's car was nowhere to be found. A new name had appeared on the signpost at the town's entrance: Lila Haynes, 2025. Deep in the labyrinth, her screams echoed endlessly, joining the whispers of those who came before her. Black Hollow remained, waiting patiently for its next visitor. The town of Black Hollow stood silent under a pale, lifeless sky. The signpost at its entrance bore a new name, carved freshly into the rusted wood: Lila Haynes, 2025. The air was heavy, with an unnatural stillness, as if the world itself had forgotten this place existed. Deep beneath the surface, in the labyrinth of shadows and flesh, Faint screams echoed, a chorus of the lost, their voices merging into the ceaseless whispers of the town. And somewhere among them, Lila's voice joined in, a soft, desperate cry swallowed by the endless dark. Black Hollow remained patient, its flickering light a beacon to those who wandered too far. For the town always needed more names to add to its sign. Sarah had just moved into the old apartment building on the corner of Wexler Street. It wasn't the prettiest place, but the price was right, and she needed a fresh start. The building had seen better days. The hallways smelled faintly of mildew, the wallpaper peeled at the edges, and the elevator creaked ominously. On her first day, she noticed how quiet it was. No sounds of televisions, music, or conversations leaked from the other units. Even the usual hum of city life outside seemed muted. Sarah had always found her new apartment building peculiar. It wasn't the creaky elevator or the faint smell of mildew lingering in the halls. It was the silence. The kind that seemed unnatural, almost oppressive. Of all the neighbors, only one caught her attention. The woman in 2B. She passed her neighbor's door, 2B, and noticed it was slightly ajar. For a moment she hesitated, expecting someone to step out, but the shadowed room remained still. Shrugging it off, she carried on with unpacking. Later that evening, Sarah heard footsteps in the hallway. She peeked out and saw her neighbor for the first time, a slender woman with pale skin and dark hair. She wore a long scarf draped loosely around her neck and carried herself as though the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. "Hi," Sarah said with a friendly smile. The woman stopped, hesitated, then nodded slightly. Her eyes were shadowed, as if she hadn't slept in days. "You're in 2B?" Sarah asked. "Yes," the woman replied softly, her voice almost too faint to hear. "You just moved in?" Sarah nodded. "I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you." The woman glanced down the hall nervously. "I'm Evelyn. Be careful here." Before Sarah could ask what she meant, Evelyn slipped into her apartment, closing the door quietly behind her. In the following days, Sarah would occasionally see Evelyn. Each time, Evelyn's demeanor was the same, quiet, reserved, and almost fearful. One evening, as Sarah returned from work, Evelyn was standing in the hallway, staring at her own door. "Evelyn?" Sarah asked, approaching cautiously. "She's here," Evelyn whispered, not turning around. "Who's here?" "The woman who watches, the one who followed me home." Evelyn's voice cracked, and Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Do you need help?" Sarah offered. Evelyn finally turned to face her, tears in her eyes. "You wouldn't understand. Just don't linger in the halls after dark." Evelyn's warnings unsettled Sarah, but she tried to brush them off. Still, she couldn't shake the unease that settled over her. One night, she decided to dig into the building's history. What she found was disturbing. A series of unexplained incidents had occurred in the building over the years. Residents disappearing, reports of strange noises, and one unsolved murder. Evelyn Walker, the tenant of 2B, found strangled in her apartment 10 years ago. Her photo in the article was unmistakable. It was the same woman Sarah had been speaking to. The next day, Sarah knocked on Evelyn's door. After a long pause, it creaked open. Evelyn stood there, her scarf tightly wound around her neck. "I know," Sarah blurted out. "I read about what happened to you." Evelyn's expression softened. "You're the first to believe me." She stepped aside, motioning for Sarah to enter. The apartment was cold, far colder than it should have been. Sarah noticed the rocking chair in the corner, gently moving despite the still air. "Why are you still here?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "I can't leave," Evelyn said. "Not until someone knows the truth." She began to tell her story. How she had been followed home one night. How she had sensed someone watching her for weeks before the attack. How, on the night of her murder, she had heard footsteps in the hallway. But when she opened the door, no one was there. "I screamed," Evelyn whispered, her voice breaking. But no one came. The next morning, Sarah went straight to the landlord's office. "There's something wrong with this building," she said. "Evelyn." The landlord held up a hand. "Evelyn? The woman from 2B? He frowned. "That apartment's been vacant for years. After what happened, no one would take it." Sarah's blood ran cold. "But I've been talking to her. She's there." The landlord leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I don't know what to tell you, miss. That apartment's been locked up since the police finished their investigation. No one's lived there since." Determined to prove she wasn't imagining things, Sarah returned to 2B. She pushed the door open and found the apartment exactly as she'd seen it before, cold and sparse. "Evelyn?" she called. The rocking chair creaked. Slowly, Evelyn appeared from the shadows, her scarf trailing behind her like a ghostly ribbon. "I just wanted someone to listen," she said, her voice softer than ever. "You've done that for me." Before Sarah could respond, Evelyn began to fade, her form dissolving like mist in the pale moonlight. That night, Sarah woke to a strange feeling of peace. She glanced at her window and saw Evelyn one last time, her silhouette bathed in moonlight. But when she blinked, Evelyn was gone. In the morning, Sarah found a single note slipped under her door. It read, "You freed me." From that day on, the building felt different, warmer, lighter. But Sarah never forgot the chilling tale of the vanishing neighbor. The building felt different after that, warmer, brighter. Sarah stayed for a while but eventually moved on, unable to shake the memory of the vanishing neighbor and the chilling truth she'd uncovered. Before she moved out, Sarah decided to visit 2B one last time. The door was unlocked, the landlord having failed to re-secure it after their visit. Inside, the room was colder than she remembered, the rocking chair in its usual corner. But now, something was different. On the floor beneath the chair lay Evelyn's scarf, neatly folded. Sarah knelt down, hesitant, and picked it up. The fabric was soft, but cold, and as she held it, she heard the faintest whisper. "Thank you for listening." The chair creaked behind her, though no one sat in it. Sarah didn't look back. She placed the scarf on the chair and left the apartment for good, closing the door softly behind her. Even now, she sometimes hears the faint creak of a rocking chair and wonders if Evelyn truly found peace, or if she's still out there, waiting to be heard. Sarah moved out a week later, but she could never fully escape what had happened. Sometimes she dreamed of Evelyn, standing in the hallway, her scarf trailing behind her. Years passed, and the building fell into further disrepair. It was eventually condemned and torn down. On the day of its demolition, Sarah stood across the street, watching the walls crumble into dust. For a moment, as the wrecking ball struck, she thought she saw a figure in one of the windows, a woman with a scarf, smiling faintly before disappearing into the rubble. Though Evelyn was gone, her story remained with Sarah. She became an advocate for cold cases, dedicating her time to giving voices to the forgotten and the silenced. In her heart, she knew Evelyn had inspired her. Even so, when Sarah lay awake at night, the shadows in her room often felt too long, the air too cold. And sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she swore she could hear the faint creak of a rocking chair in the distance, as if Evelyn was still watching, grateful for the truth finally being heard.